Hey, Dan, this is so fantastic. We love talking about all of our energy cycles, and that's what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks and teaching everyone how they layer within each other. And today is the transits, which is really your area of expertise. And I'm so excited to learn more about this and just continue to add this into our program where we really are tracking all of our energy cycles so we can be the most productive at all times and harness it.
Yeah, and these transits can be so subtle. So when you're not paying attention to them, sometimes it doesn't make a big difference. So it's really kind of an what's the word? Undervalued aspect. And when you really start honoring it and working with it, it's where you can really make some massive shifts, some big up levels, to really, bring you to a different place just by using your energy.
Yes. And I think what is so cool about the transits that I'm learning from you and from Planning by Design is the fact that sometimes I'll be like, what is this energy going on? Like, why am I feeling this? Why am I, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, the transit that's happening right now, I don't normally have that part of my human design lit up. And now I get to access that energy and learn, how to really specifically channel it. Whereas before, maybe it was still there, but I wasn't really utilizing it in a way that I could have.
Yeah, and what you kind of hinted at too is sometimes we can be challenged by these energies, right? You're kind of like, "Ooh, like why am I feeling this way? What is going on? Why, am I talking wildly or why do I have all of this energy that I don't know what to do with?" So when we know what's happening and going on outside of us externally, in the atmosphere, in the world itself, it can kind of help us make sense of, why is this happening? What is going on?
Yes, definitely. And it's just like that other layer, right? When you're already like maybe on your period cycle or your energy cycle is in flux, or maybe the moon cycle affects you. It's just another layer that you get to then leverage, which is really exciting and why we love teaching women how to, or people in general, how to really leverage these energies.
Yeah, and just to like keep this really simple, this is just another layer of awareness. This is just something to be aware of. If it's not calling to you and it's not speaking to you, let it go. You don't need to try to force it. You don't need to try to understand it. It'll come back into your awareness when you need it. But if you're like, ooh, tell me more, like keep watching, keep listening, because we will tell you what this is all about. So to keep it really simple, like what are transits? So transits is the word that we use for the energy that's moving around us, right? We are here on planet Earth, but things are happening in space, in our solar system. The planets are moving around that give off different energy. Neutrinos, if you're into the quantum physics of it, the neutrinos is that energy. It's that energy that is given off and we absorb to a certain extent. The sun being the one that gives it the most. So while you can look at different planets, right? When you think about astrology, there's all the planets, there's the asteroids, there's a lot that you can look at. But we can keep this really simple and just look at the sun, because the sun is 70% of this energy. So it's likely that you're going to feel this a bit more than if you're looking at like Saturn, right? It's really far away, all of that. So when we talk about the sun, it's what human design gate it's moving through. And when it moves through that, we have consistent energy to that. If you're familiar with astrology, right, we move through the zodiac signs. The gates of human design are just inside of that. So we're moving through Leo, but we're also moving through these different gates. So it can be really fun, if you let it, to look at, oh, what gate are we transiting now? Do I have that defined in my human design chart? Let me go find that gate. Where is it? Is it activated? Is there a circle around it with color coming off? That means that you have that fixed, reliable energy in yourself. And you may not feel this transit as much because you have that own energy. Maybe it enhances it a little, but it's very different when you don't have that gate. And now you have this new energy that you get to use as your own. And not only that, it can do different things to your chart. So anything to add to that, Mr. All, before I
I mean, I just know we're going to start talking about exactly what transit we're going through. And I'm excited about this transit because I feel like for me, it's a gate of mine that is not defined. So it's completely white and open, which means that during this time, I get to harness the energy that's coming through. And Jen and I were just chatting before this live. And I was like, oh my gosh, things just clicked into place when she said what transit it was. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm experiencing right now. And so that's really fun to learn that and then to be like, okay, now I can really utilize that energy and channel it through and distribute it, throughout my body, but then also use it in my work to leverage that and, get more done essentially.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. So to dive into what transit are we currently in? Where is the sun? What energy is it giving us? So we are in the transit of gate 4 right now. So gate 4 is located in the ajna, the mind. So if you look at your human design chart, see if you have that gate. I don't see it too much, so I think it may be a rarer gate. So it's on the top right of that ajna triangle. So it's sticking up, it's reaching towards the crown. It is the gate of formalization. It wants to formalize everything, make sense of everything, all the inspiration, everything, up and around that's just kind of like floating there for you, if you will. That's kind of how I think of my inspiration. So this gate, this energy is reaching towards it, and it's like, oh, I want to take that inspiration and make sense of it. So it could give you aha moments. You could have um, times of clarity, right? Like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And I love what you said, Mistral, about bringing it into your body, right? It's just kind of hanging up here. So, find ways to move it into your body, tap into your inner authority, all the different energy cycles that we talk about to utilize that, right? To formulate it and do something with it. So each transit lasts about 5 to 6 days. So we just moved into this transit yesterday. So we're kind of going to be hanging out here all week. So sometimes it can be fun to know, right, what's coming up to plan for it. Where are we at? Like, what's going on? Cool, gate 4. And then it can also be cool to look back. So this weekend, while you're hanging out, maybe at the beach, enjoying your summer, looking back on the week and say, what did I formalize? What did I finally make sense of? What aha moments did I have? A lot of this gate too is about forgiveness. So was I able to forgive myself and let something go so that something could take its place, right? Freeing up space to bring new and exciting things in. So I'm really excited for this week.
Actually, me too. And it's funny because I was just yesterday, I was formalizing, I'm in a whole pivot in my business right now. And I'm formalizing some new programs and some new things that I was bringing in. So it just makes sense that like yesterday I got the inspiration. Yesterday I had the breakthrough. And that's the first day that it really came through. And before that, I had actually been a little bit stuck and like, how am I going to shift through this and kind of maneuver what I want to create? And I was feeling a little bit lost. And then just yesterday, things started dropping in. So it's funny because I'm someone as a manifesting generator who, when I get a vision or a breakthrough, I get excited and I move through it and I start creating things from it. And so for me, that's really fun to bring this in, sit with it, because I do have emotional authority. So I am supposed to sit, right, with my emotional wave. But then also, once I bring that in, I can start pushing it down to manifest through my throat, to start taking action on it through my sacral or my root. And that's what's really exciting about this, is that I feel supported now. So before, when I had those breakthroughs yesterday, I was like, okay, this is great. This is super exciting. But knowing that the transit is there and it's meant to be really happening and I can take that energy, it means now I can almost ask, I feel like I can almost ask more questions or put information out there that I want to receive back and actually have those action steps sort of laid out for me by myself, of course, right? Our intuition tells us those things, but I can really be asking and moving forward with it so that I can create and push. I'm not really formalizing the words that I want to create right now, but basically take action, the aligned action of what's next to create the things that are coming through. And that's exciting.
Yes. Yes, I love it. So I just have to give a shout out to Christy Ingy here, because it's through her newsletters that I've actually gained so much more wisdom and understanding about these transits. And I love that every new transit, when we move into it, she sends out an email. So the other piece that I love about the transits is if you're, taking this journey, and are in no rush over a year, you're going to learn and study all 64 gates. You're going to know a little bit about them. So I love getting her newsletter to learn about the gates, but also she gives wonderful reflection questions. And these are the questions that I pop into our Telegram group in Planning by Design every 6 to 7 days. Well, it's 5 to 6, but sometimes I get behind. So every week, I'm popping these reflection questions into our Telegram group so that our group can sit with this and reflect on it or plan for it. So I just wanted to share her questions for gate 4, what we're in now, to really reflect on. And this all goes according with gate 4. So, what is your relationship with forgiveness? Do you see it as the only logical solution sometimes? Right? That ajna, that mind trying to make sense.
Yeah.
What bad experiences have you become grateful for? Right? All that formalization. And then, lastly, in what ways have you used logic against yourself and others? And are you willing to forgive yourself for that?
Oh, the logic piece is so hard for me because I have that open ajna and I'm always like living in my head, processing what's my next step instead of sometimes I have to remind myself, drop into your body, drop this. This is where your authority comes from. This is where your intuition comes from. And our mind just reels and reels and reels. And so that's such a good question to sit down and reflect on because I know many women can relate to how they just get stuck in their mind. And if you do make a mistake or have a failure or make a bad decision, you have to be able to forgive yourself and move on because otherwise it just eats away at us, right? And then and then that goes into so many other energy layers and making future mistakes potentially too. And so it's so important to forgive ourselves and kind of move on, essentially.
Yeah, and just to look at this in terms of deconditioning, right? Like, where am I falling into a lower vibration? Where am I falling into the shadows here, right? The not self theme of the ajna for us, especially with an undefined open ajna, like we
Yeah.
get really stuck in trying to answer all of the questions, trying to convince ourselves or someone else that we're right. Like, I actually just called out my friend this morning because they were like, "Oh yes, the soil does this and the nutrients do this," and I just looked at them and I was like, oh really, are you trying to convince yourself of that, because you're not convincing me? And they really were able to sit there and go, whoa, yeah, that's my undefined ajna, not self theme. Like, I just fell into that shadow. So it was really
Amazing.
cool to see the energy of this, trying to formulate, but it's also like a BS formalization because of that not self energy.
Oh, so how do we pick up on that? I mean, do you have any feedback from your friend? Like, did she, I mean, obviously you called her out on it, but was she able to realize that herself without being called out? Because that's important, right? It's important to know when we get into that spiral of sort of self-convincing or the self-actualization of like, what am I doing here with all these questions, right? And that I'm asking myself. And so how can we pick up on that, do you think?
Well, we definitely need the self awareness, because as I was watching them, I was like, are they going to get there? And it became clear, like, let me just call them out here, right? Let me bring this to the conscious awareness so that, we can really talk about this. But I think the other piece is they have an undefined throat. So they just kind of kept talking and talking to try to like get to the convincing of like, yes, I do know. So really it's that awareness of, what am I consciously putting out there? What am I consciously doing with my energy? But then there's this other layer, and this is again in planning by design, knowing your type and knowing your undefined centers so that you can be aware of that not self. Like, my
Mm.
guess is if my friend kept going, they're also a projector, bitterness would have come, like, oh no, like I'm not right, whether they expressed it or not. I think there would have been that internal bitterness. So it's awareness of that, awareness of where does your energy get stuck, where do you not have that definition, and especially the transit of like, well, I'm trying to convince, formulate this and really make sense of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And this is why I love human design so much. And I know some people, don't, I don't know, maybe don't relate to it as much, but I feel like when I discovered it and I really looked at what I was made up of energetically, it made so much sense. It gave me so much permission to just be more of me and who I am and be unapologetic about it. Although, let's be honest, we all still struggle, right, with like our conditioning and learning how to really step out. and show our true selves. But when we are stuck, like you were saying, like in our mind or in our head or somewhere in our body, like knowing our human design and knowing our not self theme, like the bitterness, the why am I forgetting mine right now?
Frustration.
Thank you. I'm like, it's not fear, but I know it's an F, frustration. Then we can understand, like, oh, I'm feeling so frustrated. This is not my self thing. So how do I go back and switch this around and get out of that frustration? How can I acknowledge what either I did or someone else did or whatever? Not necessarily putting blame, right? But looking at what was it that caused me to get out of sort of my normal theme of like satisfaction, happiness, joy, and following and looking for that versus staying in that frustration, because that's really huge.
Yeah, and I think what really hit with me when it came to human design is that I'm a very self aware person. I've always had this heightened level of internal awareness. Of course, knowing my design makes sense. But as a therapist, I was always kind of stuck with like, how do I teach my clients awareness, especially in 60 minutes a week with no outside support? Actually, it was more like 45 minutes. It's a challenge. So I loved when I got human design because I was like, oh, here's the blueprint of their awareness. They need to understand that here, go on your journey. Let's talk about it. Let's chat about it. And like, here's exactly how you become aware and what you need to become aware of. So I love that it really gave me the answer where I was feeling stuck to be able to help all of my clients grow their awareness and align.
Yeah, and alignment is so key, as we always talk about, especially in planning by design, which is really a membership for women who are looking to really sync up with their cycles, right? Our period, the moon cycle, our energy cycles, and then the transits, of course, that do actually affect a lot of these cycles. And I think the most important thing for me, and we were talking about this last week, is that these energy cycles, they're not all just one thing that we follow, right? There's multiple layers, and what Jen and I are discovering as we're teaching other women to do this and really diving deeper for ourselves is that there's different layers. And the way that I follow my energy cycle is very different to how Jen follows hers. And there's different things that affect us. And so once you figure those out and you understand, it is so much easier to give yourself permission to rest when you're actually not feeling motivated, and then give yourself permission to go big when you have the energy to do it, whatever it is that you love doing.
Right. And just to give an example that we were talking about before, I just started my period cycle the other day. So when I know that, oh, I have these things to do, it's a reminder of, well, I'm not in the energy to do that this week. So let me plan for that. And now, especially with this conversation, how can I utilize this gate of formalization? How can I
Mhm.
formulate all of these things to really sit with it, especially as emotional authority, to sleep on it, to take my time to formulate, what actions am I going to take next week when my energy, comes roaring back so that I
Mm.
can, really be present and be taking aligned action in my business, which is so exciting. And again, that's exactly what we help people do inside Planning by Design.
Yes. And I love that you said that about like this is your week to kind of formalize, think on it, allow it to sit, and then plan for next week when you know your energy is going to be higher and you can have all the ideas ready to go. And how amazing is that? So next week when you're ready to leverage that and you're feeling it, you've just got your lists and you're just like, check, 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 right? And then you feel so accomplished having done that. And you got to do that in a time when you were honoring rest for yourself, which as women, we know has been really hard to decondition ourselves from essentially. And we're always just like working or looking after other people or trying to constantly stay busy. And so I think that is such a beautiful realization when we can just say, hey, this is the best way for me to run my business. And now I leverage my lows and I like low energy, and I leverage my high energy, and I leverage everything in between, and it runs like clockwork, right? Now, obviously, you're going to start tracking as we have. It doesn't happen overnight, right? It's something we have to learn to track, we have to experiment with, we have to play around with. But then once it all falls into place, it really makes life and business so much easier.
Yeah, and I think that's the feedback that we're starting to get from the women inside Planning by Design, right? We're in our third month of running this program, and it's starting to click. They're starting to align with their type, right? We have a manifester who's so beautifully like, I'm initiating, I've started this, here it goes, I'm doing all of these things. Like, it's so beautiful to see them honoring and understanding their cycles and then utilizing it to grow their business. So
Yes.
cool.
Yes. And let's be real, like we're in the new paradigm of how business is being run. We've been in a shift for a while, and now we're really in this big shift of where it's no longer just about the old school marketing tactics. This is about being authentic. This is about being yourself. This is about embodying your energy and who you are and fully owning it and putting it out there into the world to bring the people that are meant to be working with you in. And so one thing I noticed when I was first starting my business is I was doing what everybody else told me to do because that's what I thought that I had to do. And I was always frustrated, which is my not self theme, and wondering, why is this not working? Why does it feel like I'm pushing like this big, wet, slippery rock up a muddy hill and getting nowhere? Well, that's why, right? Because I'm not following what's in alignment or doing things that actually resonate with me. And I was just like, I don't feel good about this, but I'm doing it because that's what I'm told to do. Then it doesn't work at all. And so while one system works for one person, it's for sure not going to work for somebody else if their energy types and then their cycles aren't the same.
Yeah, as a projector, I learned that well, trying to do it other people's way. Why isn't this working? Okay, if I just push harder, maybe if I just do it now, not honoring my projector energy. So I ended up in bitterness, not honoring my emotional authority, not honoring my period cycle. Like, I'm supposed to be resting, not pushing. And the transits too. I was trying to do something with clearly no energy to try to make that happen. So no wonder why I struggled for years, yet now having this awareness of these different cycles, utilizing it for myself and my business, I mean, it is a whole other paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly is. And it's also like a whole new paradigm of manifestation too, really, because now we're manifesting what we clearly want in the energetic alignment of how we're designed to show up, which is brilliant. So those of you watching who struggle with all that, come say hello.
And just a note on the manifestation, like, we're in a big time for
Yeah.
manifestation. So while we're in this transit of gate 4 formalization, formalize your manifestations. If you have not gotten crystal clear on what you are manifesting for yourself in this next 6-month cycle, this next year cycle, this next 7-year cycle, this next 20-year cycle of like Pluto and Aquarius, like, get clear now. You have the energy to formalize and like envision and imagine, write that down, put it into your manifestation practice. Join Planning by Design will help you with all of that. And like, can't wait to see you there.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's so cool, just to mention about Planning by Design, is we have these amazing worksheets that are going to help you work through all of this. That kind of tells you exactly what you need to be doing. Look at that. It's so beautiful. There's so much notes and information on there that tell you this is what you would do in your business during this time. And then you get to align it with the moon cycle, with your energy cycle, and really tap in and tune into that and create essentially your like strategic plan, your marketing plan, your business plan, your clients, how often you see them around all of your energy cycles so that you can have this really nourishing business that thrives.
Oh, and like, it feels so good. And you
Not
get
gonna
to
lie,
be
that
in your self theme. Like, I'm just feeling so much success thinking about myself and where I've come and how we get to share this with women and seeing the women, really start utilizing this. It just fills me with success. I imagine you're feeling as equally satisfied.
yes, I am. I love it. And it gives me the permission to let go of everything else that does not align, which I did not do in the past. And that's where I struggled because that then brings on the unsatisfaction and the frustration.
Yeah, the deconditioning is real. We really need it. And if you don't know where to go, don't know how to do it, this is a great starting step.
Totally. Yep. So you can
And for
message
$11 a month, like, it is a great starting step.
just for the worksheets. I mean, honestly,
They're so great, and they're going to get better.
they are getting better. Yep. Jen and I are releasing new worksheets for approximately September-ish, with a lot more information that's really going to support you in understanding and utilizing all of the energy cycles and figuring out like your layers. What's your top layer of your energy cycle versus your second, third, and fourth, and so on. And that's what allows you to get into complete alignment.
Beautiful. So if you're curious about all of this, the transits, honoring your different energetic cycles, if you're curious about the worksheets, comment, DM either of us, Planning by Design, plan, anything like that, and we will get you the link to join. We have our second accountability call next week. So there's still plenty of time to jump in to catch up for this month and to join us live on our one of our 2 calls every month.